All right. Hello, guys. Welcome back to Step by Step with me, Shelby Church. Today, we are doing a personal finance video. I'm going to reveal how much I made in 2024 off of everything, YouTube and other streams of income. I've done videos like this before, and I know this topic can feel kind of weird to people. Even to me, it feels weird to put all this out there. So in some ways I don't really want to, because I think it can lead to bad intentions from people if they know how much money you have or how much money you make. But I also find it to be very helpful. I watch when other people make videos like this, and honestly, it has helped me so much. I really think Graham Stephan is kind of the pioneer of sharing how much he made through real estate and online, and it's just been beneficial. It's helped me make even more money and also inspire me and be like, oh, wow, like if he can do that, like maybe I can too. That is kind of why I share this. It's obviously not in a braggy way. I haven't made a video like this in a couple years because I just didn't want to. I just feel weird about it, I guess. But I do sometimes get requests from people still on my vlog channel to kind of give an income report. And I also want to share what I'm noticing in the social media space as good ways to make money, because things have really changed, with short form content and TikTok, YouTube and everything, podcasts even. I've noticed some really shocking things about how money is made now. It's not what you'd expect. I mean, there's definitely ways to do it if you're smart, where it can be actually not that time consuming if you know how to do it. I'll explain later. I mean, first I'll go through how much I've made, and I'll also share how I've made actually a quarter of my income, not even on YouTube at all. Like, I made 6 figures from something that did not involve YouTube, which is actually so crazy. And it's the first year that I've done that. And it's not real estate either, because I did get my real estate license at the end of the year, but that was like very end of the year. I didn't really start working in real estate until 2025, I would say. So I'll share that last. But yeah, first let's kind of dive into it, how much I made. So not the main stream, but a solid stream of income every year is Google AdSense. So that is the money that you make off of the little pre-roll ads, the little commercials and YouTube videos. And I've noticed some changes in this. I'll go over later, but I kind of just want to go over the numbers of everything first and then the trends and things. So from Google AdSense, I made $78,829 on my main channel. And then my vlog channel, I made $30,539. So pretty good, like $100,000. That's, you can say passive income, but it's really not passive because you have to actively be making YouTube videos to get that income. But it is really cool that you can make money from YouTube and you just click the button to turn on monetization. In that sense, if you're already making videos, it's kind of passive. Like, you don't have to coordinate with anyone, like any brands or anything. So it's just easy anytime you're posting to turn that on. So I always love that stream of income because it doesn't involve extra work. It's like, I'm making the videos anyway, I'm turning on monetization. So it's solid. It's definitely less than previous years, and I'll get into why a little bit later, but still a solid amount from AdSense. Okay. Then onto brand deals. This is usually where people make the most on YouTube, or if they're an influencer in general. And this last year, 2024, I made $229,000. I made $229,510 from brand deals. Now, I will say there are 1 or 2 companies that haven't paid me still, and I think they're trying to like get out of paying me. So I'm like, it might. We'll see if we can get the payment, but there is one company in particular. They're a big Fortune 500 company, so I won't say who they are, but they had me do all this work, all these edits, and then they made up an excuse for why I can't post it yet. And it's been like a year, you guys. I still haven't been able to post it. I am like kind of annoyed because I already like put in all the effort. I literally had to spend money on this. I had to buy stuff for it. So that's like about $7,000. It was a social media post, not YouTube. So At least it wasn't as much work as a full YouTube video. That's like a lot more. I would be pretty annoyed if that happened. But yeah, there's like one or two companies where I'm still kind of like waiting on that. So we'll see, but it should be $229,000. So in really like active income through YouTube, I made $338,878, which obviously is a great income, but compared to other years, it's actually not as good. I'd say it's a little more, I think, than last year, but 2022, I made just like, I feel kind of a ridiculous amount. I also make money off affiliate commissions. I didn't even total it up for this because I just don't really participate in that many affiliate programs. I find that Honey steals the affiliate commission. Like certain programs, I will see that my affiliate links work so well. For example, Tesla, I've sold like over 600 of them. And then I'll go and I'll do an affiliate link for something like my camera or whatever. And I'll notice I'll get clicks, but I don't get the commissions. And I think it is Honey stealing it. So I just kind of stopped doing affiliate linking for the most part. Like sometimes I will in my vlogs if people ask about it, but I don't really even track it. It's just like if I'm already talking about something and if I remember to put the link. Okay, I also made some money from TikTok because I got monetized on there. If you make over a minute long video on TikTok, you can make money from it. So from TikTok, I made $244. It was the end of the year. I don't really prioritize posting on TikTok, but yeah, I found the RPM, so the amount you get per 1,000 views, is about $1. And I had a video get like 200,000 views. However, not every view counts. It ends up being like 70% of them, like 60 to 70%. So from a 200,000 viewed video, I probably make like $150, maybe a little less. So I had a couple that did well. And honestly, that actually weirdly gets me more excited than AdSense because it's a minute long video. It's so short. I could potentially make a lot more of those. I do kind of think that TikTok tries to not push them if they have to pay you. So it's got to be like a really good video if it's over a minute long and qualifies for monetization. Otherwise, I feel like they suppress it. Like I really do. Then if it's under a minute long, they don't have to pay you. They're more likely to share it. So I don't know. That's just a theory of mine, but I made a little bit of money on TikTok. I didn't do any TikTok brand deals. So all my brand deals were basically YouTube and Instagram. And what I found so interesting in this last year, and this is before I'll get into the last way that I made money, but I'll get into that after I talk about all the YouTube stuff. Okay, the interesting thing about brand deals is I've noticed that these days companies will offer to pay like the same amount for an Instagram brand deal as they would for a YouTube brand deal. And that is just crazy to me because it's so much more work to make a YouTube video. Instagram is so much easier. Like it will usually be bundled together, but say it's 2 reels and a set of Instagram stories, I will get paid the same amount for that as like a dedicated YouTube video sometimes, which is wild to me because again, it's just so easy. I'm like, damn, people who are big on Instagram really have it made because it's just less time consuming. I mean, it's still difficult in its own way. Don't get me wrong. Like to come up with good content that does really well, it's not easy and it can take more time than I put into it. Maybe I just don't put the time in. I don't know. But I just find compared to YouTube, it's a lot less time. Like you can edit it all on your phone. It's just, you don't even have to use a different camera. Just use your iPhone. I mean, that's what does well. I feel like if you use a nicer camera for Instagram, it actually does worse. Like people don't want that level of quality. It feels unrelatable. So I'm just like, find that to be kind of crazy. I think like part of it is because companies, they want content that they can put paid media behind. So with a YouTube video, it's really hard to turn that into a commercial. You can turn it into a pre-roll ad, but not a lot of companies want to do that as much as Instagram and TikTok. Companies love to have you make an Instagram reel and then they will license it. So they have to pay more for this. They'll license it and they'll turn it into an ad. And it saves them money in a way because they don't have to pay someone else to make a whole other video. Like, think about in the past, these companies would spend millions of dollars on commercials. They don't have to do that anymore. They just pay an influencer a set amount, like maybe, I don't know, let's say someone's getting paid, this is not my rate, but let's say someone's getting paid like $10,000 to make an Instagram reel and a set of stories. That's so much less, and they can run it as an ad, the company can. That's so much less than if they had to make a commercial back in the day, and they work better because it's more relatable. So I've done quite a few deals like that in my day where I get paid for the license usage. And honestly, so I have an agent, so I don't always negotiate these deals, but sometimes I'll have companies come back and they'll want to license the footage for longer, because usually it'll just be like 3 months, maybe 6 months I'll license it for. It's never in perpetuity. It's never forever. I never sign anything in perpetuity. And so many companies are so slimy and try and slide that in. And I'm like, the fuck? Like, do you think I'm dumb? I mean, sorry, but it just gets me really mad because I feel like people do get taken advantage of like that. Like, newer creators who don't know, they just don't know. How would they know? If they're new to it and you just blew up on TikTok, how would you know how these deals typically work? It's usually behind closed doors, and there's not a ton of information out there unless you have like a manager or an agent who knows what they're doing. But even these days, I feel like there are people who just decide to become a manager, and it's like, do they know what they're doing? There's a lot, there's different levels to these things. There's great managers and great agents out there, and then there are people who kind of just are learning how to do it. Like, you don't have to get a license to do it. You can just start. So yeah, people love to say it's like the Wild West, and kind of it is, but also this stuff has been going on for a while, that there are some like standard procedures. But sorry, that was kind of a tangent, all to say that I don't sign anything that gives license usage for a lifetime. That is just crazy. No one does. So if a company ever tries to get you to do that, definitely push back on that. And if you don't have an agent or a manager, like, throw the contract into ChatGPT and ask it, what seems alarming here? What should I look out for? Sometimes I'll even do that just because I get confused looking over myself, because I look over the contracts too, but my agency does, and they have lawyers and stuff. But I still want to know, what I'm signing as well and understand it. So I'd always recommend that. It just makes sense of all the jargon, and it makes it easier and quicker to read. So that's something I'd recommend. I would say another thing I've noticed is that companies are trying to spend less money on YouTube, I think. Like, I've noticed that because they're prioritizing short form, like TikTok and Instagram, I've gotten companies lowballing me on YouTube. And honestly, I've stayed strong on my rates. Like, I'm not afraid to turn something down if it doesn't seem worth it to me, especially if it's a company I've worked with previously and they're coming back with like a lower rate. I'm like, if you want to work with me again, clearly something was working. And so a lower rate just doesn't make sense. So yeah, so many times in the past 2 years, I've just declined deals because the rate isn't what I feel is what I should get and what I've gotten in the past. And I'm not afraid to say no, because basically my other streams of income, which I would recommend every creator. I'll talk about that at the end, like how to kind of set up your life in a way that you don't need to depend on brand deals. But yeah, basically, I'm not afraid to say no. And because of that, I end up getting paid more for them. Almost always the brands come back and match the rate that I want. And so I'm glad that I stick to my guns on that, like, because I could just be like, yeah, I'll do it for that. But I don't know. Then they'll always be inching lower. And I don't know. I don't feel that I need to make every piece of content sponsored. A lot of my videos, I don't put sponsors in them. I just make them because I want to. Sometimes I lose money on them technically if I'm hiring a videographer and stuff. But at the end, it all evens out. Like, at the end of the year, it's still net positive. So I'm like, it's fine. If certain videos I take a loss, other videos I take a major win, So that's kind of that. I'll get into the last chunk of income, the way that I made a quarter of my income. So I made $108,822 totally passively, just investment income, guys. I mean, I know this is like unrelatable, but I still want to talk about it because So I'm talking stocks and high yield savings account, not real estate, by the way, because real estate, okay, no, it's not a scam, but it's just not what people make it seem like. And I'll talk about that too. But I want to bring up the investment side of it because anyone can start investing, and keep in mind, I'm turning 30 next week. Okay. I did not start investing yesterday. I've been investing for like 10 years. I've been making money on YouTube for like 15. So I feel like people sometimes look at me and sometimes, not to sound like a pick me girl, whatever, they think I'm younger than I am. I'm not kidding, guys. I went to this event yesterday and the lady like almost wouldn't give me the drink because she didn't think I was 21. I was like, okay, I for sure look over 21. Like, come on. But sometimes I think people see my channel and they see that I'm a girl and maybe they think I'm younger than I am. No, I'm almost 30. I'll own that. And so I've been investing for a long time. And so, yeah, I've built a solid portfolio. I feel like I have to like downplay that or something, which is stupid. I feel like because I'm a girl, people like think I don't deserve it or whatever. But, you know, Graham Stephan makes a video like this. No one's hating on it. They all find it inspiring, right? And so I guess sorry, I get heated because I'm just like, I don't know. I just am afraid people are going to be like, well, you don't deserve it or something. I'm like, sorry that I've just really thought about investing over the years and prioritized it. Okay. So all this to say that getting to a place of making six figures investing, it's not something that you're going to do in a year unless your income is very high. It took me a while to get here. And, I've kind of talked about my net worth, like between stocks and a high yield savings account, I do have like a little over $1 million invested. So that's how I've gotten to this return. And I will say in the last year, it was kind of conservative. I had a lot more in the high yield savings account than I probably would looking back if I went back in time or something, just because I'm still relatively younger, you know, in comparison to retirement age. So I can take on more risk. I slowly started moving more and more into stocks like index funds, which if you're not familiar are basically just a little piece of the overall stock market. They're generally pretty low to medium risk. Like they're more risky than just a high yield savings account or a bond, but they're a lot less risky than individual stocks. So I like to put some money in there. Typically you will get an 8 to 10% return on that over the course of decades. You know, some years it's going to be down, some years it's going to be up a lot. It just so happened this last year, it was up like 20 something percent. So the money that I actually had in the stock market, I got like a 20% return on my index funds. I have another account where I kind of go off instinct and I invest a little more in individual stocks. That one I got like a 30% return because I just look at trends and I'm like, Amazon's down, but everyone I know literally just buys everything on Amazon. I'm gonna buy some Amazon. You know, like that's kind of how I look at it. I don't look too deep into the numbers, but it's just an amount that I kind of go a little more off instinct, but I'm not crazy risky with that. You know, most of my money I'll say is in index funds and in high yield savings account. So I have kind of just been slowly putting more into the index funds though, because I'm like, you know what? Time in the market beats timing the market. Like I need to just put it in there, but I really get nervous of putting it all in at once because I don't want it to like go down the next day, even though, like I said, time in the market beats timing the market. And in that theory, you should just put it all in now, but I dollar cost average in. So I put a little bit in each month to kind of get the average over the course of the year. So that's why, even though I have about $1 million invested in different things, in like liquid. So real estate, I don't count with that. That's why even though I have that, I didn't get like a 20% return like the index fund. It's because I had kind of too much, I'd say, playing it safe in the index funds. And on red days, so days that the market's down, I put more in. Like I look at it every day. I do. I check every day. It doesn't stress me out. If it's down, I'm kind of excited. I put more money in. And that's how I look at it. I don't panic sell. Except for my little for fun account. I have a very small account where I'll just like trade for fun. And I don't do a lot of that because you pay a lot more in taxes if you're doing trading like that. Like I like to hold long term because I don't want to be paying a lot more in taxes. Like it is actually crazy how much less you pay if you hold long term. So yeah, I guess I didn't quite go over my total income for the year. But okay, so my total income for the year, including the passive income from investing, it ended up being $449,153. So that's kind of crazy. You know, I never know at the beginning of the year quite how much I'm going to make. I get nervous, like, you know, is my channel not going to do that well? I'm always trying, but I'm like, you just don't have total control over things like brand deals. And that's why I've really prioritized investing and trying to get my passive income to a place where I can almost live off of it. And that's what I'd recommend for a lot of creators. Like if you're doing well, if you can invest in something, whether it's stocks or real estate, do your research, you know, that's what I've done over the years. But that is why I say no to brand deals, is because I know that I have some money that'll be okay. Like I can not take some for a few months. It's going to be fine. I could not do a brand deal for a year. It's going to be okay. But that's really why. It's also because YouTube is this kind of thing where you never know. I mean, TikTok almost was banned. I don't think YouTube would ever get banned, but it's not like totally the safest career in terms of longevity, which is why I put a lot into investments and just try and prioritize that. I mean, my goal, I think I've talked about this before, but my goal is to get to a place where I have $5 million invested. And I'm like, oh, I hope I'm not saying that and making people sounding like unrelatable, but it's, guys, like if you get comfortable with these numbers and you start to believe that you can do it too, like that's the first step. If you're listening to me say that and you're going, that's crazy, I could never do that, then what you're thinking, it becomes true. You know, it really started with the mindset work of believing that I can get to that. And I started that mindset work at a young age. Like I was like 14 and I was thinking like, I'll be a millionaire someday. Like, because I grew up with not a lot of money. So it probably became more important to me than it should be. Like now I'm like, it doesn't matter that much. Like, you know, after a certain point and you have your needs met, it doesn't make as much of a difference, right? But basically that's kind of my goal with it, is to get my passive income even higher. Another benefit to that is this is so crazy. And this is like kind of the craziest life hack I feel. And a lot of people know it, but if you're not as familiar with investing, that might blow your mind. But you get taxed a lot less on investment income than ordinary income. So all that money that I make from YouTube, I get taxed at a lot higher rate. I get taxed in California. So I end up paying like usually 30 to 40 something percent on that. When you include the California part, up to 50%. Depends on how much you make. The bracket, you know, I'm in the bracket of under $500,000. So let me just Google what that is really quick. So for my active income, I'm in the tax bracket of 35% for most of the income. One thing you have to remember is you're not taxed all of that. It's like you're taxed in the different brackets up to that amount. So the first, you know, $47,000 I make, I'm taxed only at 12%. Then the next up to 100,000, it's 22%. So the marginal rate is a little bit lower. That's something a lot of people don't realize. You know, you're not taxed everything at 35%. So it's maybe more like 30% or something like that. I'm not exactly sure. Maybe a little more. But then again, I'm taxed also at the state level. But the thing with the investment income is it is taxed so much lower because it's capital gains tax is what they call it. And sorry if that sounds basic. I'm trying to make sure that this is something that is helpful to someone who's not familiar with this. I feel like that's kind of the point, so that you can see. Capital gains tax at that bracket, I believe, is only like 15%. Capital gains tax, long-term capital gains tax, if you're making under $518,000, you're only taxed at 15%. That is so crazy. Now, if you live in a place with state income tax, you also pay the state tax on it. But it's just insane that the money that you're not even doing any actual active work for, you're taxed on less. It kind of doesn't seem right to me. It's crazy, but I'm like, okay, I guess if that's how the world works, I'll play the game, you know? So that's a reason I think that it is really important to prioritize investment income, because, you know, you just end up, if you can get to a point where you're making more from it and you're taxed less when you take the gains, it's crazy that you could live off that. Like, for example, let's say that I have a salary of $300,000, or I'm making $300,000 a year in investment income. I'm keeping way more of it if I'm making it in investment income. It's just wild. So that's something that, you know, people don't realize. I didn't realize that probably in my earlier 20s, because taxes stuff, it gets complicated. And I feel like a lot of us just at a certain point get kind of burnt out on all of it, and we just file our taxes and we're like, okay, screw it, I don't want to even think about it anymore. But you know, it is well worth your time to learn about it, and it is kind of interesting. It's like exciting when you find ways that you can save money, obviously in the legal way. So yeah, that's something that's kind of crazy. One last thing on the money that I made from investments. I will say, I'll note, those are unrealized gains, meaning I haven't sold yet. I plan to just hold long term. So yes, they can go down, they can go up. They average about 10% a year. And I'm going off the number at the end of the year. It was about $108,000 of income. Although I will say some of that was realized. Anything that I made from my high yield savings account or dividend income, that you get as like a direct deposit, like check type of thing. It just like is in your account each month. So you do get taxed more on that. That's another reason I've been putting more of it into stocks rather than in the high yield savings account. Because, for example, say you make like $20,000 in a year off of a high yield savings account, you're going to be taxed a lot more on it. So that's just another thing, is that number is not totally concrete in a way. It's a little bit just still up in the air, because the numbers can go up and down. But that's about what I got in passive income. And I don't know, I think it'll all even out over like 10 years. So yeah, that's a bit about my investment strategy these days. Cut. So another thing I noticed this year that I want to talk about, and why my AdSense was lower, was I noticed that YouTube RPMs were lower. And this, I don't really know exactly why it is. I have a theory though. So I used to get an RPM of about $7 to $10 per 1,000 views, which is considered good. You know, a lot of my content is about like business, electric cars, sometimes personal finance. So it's pretty good. I've heard of people in that niche getting more like $20 per 1,000 views, but I was like happy with 7 to 10. I was thinking that's pretty cool. But lately, without changing my niche, and my audience demographic really hasn't changed either, I don't think, it's gone down to more like $4 to $5 per 1,000 views. So it's really cut in half. Like, I'm still getting, this last month, I got like 1.4 million views on my main channel, and I made like $6,000. In the past, it would have been like 15,000. So I don't know exactly why. I can actually see in the back end of like my whole YouTube studio that the brands are still paying the same amount as they were before. So the brands, to have those ads on YouTube, they have to pay like usually $25 to $30, and then I get my cut of that and YouTube gets their cut of that. But they're paying the same amount, I'm getting less. And I don't think YouTube is taking more of a cut necessarily, because they communicate that to us usually when they do. So unless they're just like haven't announced it yet or being sneaky, I don't know. I don't think YouTube would really do that, honestly. I think what it is there might be less bids for advertising space. So even though brands are still paying that same amount, they might just be running less ads, and that's why the RPM is lower. That's really my theory. I think it makes sense. You know, more brands are kind of diversifying into TikTok and Instagram, like I said. So where someone maybe before, a company might have put money into a YouTube pre-roll ad, like a little commercial, they might be spending it on an influencer doing an Instagram campaign. So I think that might be it. But that's just what I've noticed. And I'm curious to know if anyone else watching does YouTube, if they've noticed their RPM become lower as well. And it's not just in January, you know, like I know January is notoriously lower RPMs, but even in December, it was lower. Just like the whole year, it was like a little bit lower for me. And yeah, I don't know why exactly, but I'm hoping that it goes back up eventually. Like hopefully it will, maybe. Okay, so let's talk about what I was saying before, how you can make it less time consuming. Like if you are wanting to get into being a social media content creator these days, what I would do, I mean, I really think the people who are winning today in terms of lifestyle, like how time consuming it is and how much they make, are people who are big on TikTok. Those people are making a lot of money. Like I've heard from, I know people who are like managers and big on TikTok and whatever, and they will make more than sometimes what I make from a YouTube brand deal from just like a, 30-second TikTok. The thing is, it is kind of hard to grow on TikTok today. I really think it is. I think it's still possible. You just have to be really unique. Like if you're doing something unique and like you're studying what's working and what's not and like figuring it out, like it's still possible. And they can charge a good amount. I think the thing that's a bummer is you don't get that AdSense income. You also don't get as much of a personal connection to your audience. Like I can't tell you how many times I've shown a TikTok to someone, I don't know the person's name. So it feels like the longevity part is even more fleeting than YouTube, because I feel like people know me more on YouTube, and like, my sister's dog's name, for example, a lot of you guys do. And so that's like, there's more depth to it. And so that's something I like about YouTube. Even though you may not make more, it feels like there's more longevity there. Same with the podcasting world. I feel like there's more longevity in that if you can make it work. I've heard podcasting can be lucrative, but it's like it's hard to grow. That's the hardest one to grow is a podcast. Easiest is to grow on short form, probably TikTok, Instagram. But I mean, that's what I would do if I were someone who has a full-time job and I want to start making some money on social media too. I would go for TikTok, because YouTube is just really time consuming, and it's kind of hard to compete with those of us who have the full-time capacity to work on a video. Like I can put 40 hours a week into a YouTube video. And so I think it's like, if you only have evenings to work on YouTube, it's not impossible, but it's just harder, And I'll acknowledge that. I feel like I have an advantage there because I've been doing it for so long. But when I first started, I was doing it after school, but it was different then. I feel like no one was doing it full time. The quality wasn't as good. And like everyone was kind of making content just like after school or in their spare time. So it wasn't as good. So that's kind of something that I think I would do if I were new to it. And I don't really prioritize TikTok that much these days, because I find I get burned out when I do that. Like at the end of the day, I'm like, I want to prioritize my main channel. It's more exciting to me. It's more fun, and I can still make money off it. To me, the AdSense money is still enticing. Like I just like that I don't necessarily have to rely on a brand deal to make some money from that. And that's another thing, like I said earlier, that I would recommend creators, if you can, prioritize as you grow. Like if you're someone who is trying to grow on social media and you're starting to see success, like investing money, finding ways to diversify so that you don't necessarily have to do brand deals. Because as you may know, if you are in social media, it's like not totally in your control. You'll get the offers. You can try and reach out to brands too, but you just don't want to be in a place where a brand is offering you money and you don't want to do it, but you want the money. I feel like a lot of people get to that place, but I mean, if you can avoid it, the best way to do that is to have other streams of income, of course. So if you can do that eventually through investments, which it can take time, but investments can compound. Like over the years, I haven't put necessarily $1 million into the market. It's just compounded and grown to that spot, right? So I know a lot of people are familiar with that, but if you have your money getting a 10% return, it will like essentially double every 5 to 7 years. I think it is something like that, depending on how the market actually does. So it's kind of crazy, but that's what I would recommend. If you're somebody who is on TikTok, maybe like keeping your other job until you're at a place where you have some investment income so you don't rely on brand deals. Like to me, that's just very scary to rely on brand deals. And that's why I still like YouTube. And I mean, people do it though. Like people are big on TikTok, and like some of those big TikTok creators, I'm like, they're probably making like literally $100,000 from a TikTok, so maybe they don't care because you can invest that and make some good passive income anyway. But I would just always recommend investing. Another thing I didn't really get to is expenses. So, it's like the $450,000. That's revenue, right? And investment income. But it doesn't include like the fact that I have to pay $450 a month for tax prep. Like that's between bookkeeping and the end of the year stuff and my Palm Springs account and all of that. That really, it adds up. I contribute to my own 401k and everything, so I do get write-offs for that. Equipment, I feel like I don't really have to spend that much on equipment anymore. Like I have the equipment that I need. Sometimes I'll look into other stuff, but I don't know. I don't really need a lot. I do spend on editors and videographers a good amount. I mean, thousands of dollars a year, like over 10,000, which is not that bad in comparison to how much I make. I honestly might invest more into that because it's really helpful and reduces burnout if you hire people to help you create your content. It can make the content even better. But sometimes it just is a little scary to me if I know like I only am going to have AdSense on a video and I don't even know if the video will do well. I'm like, if I'm hiring an editor, sometimes the editor just gets all the money that I made from that particular video. But I have to remember it's like it evens out at the end of the year kind of thing. Whenever I have a brand deal, I'm way more quick to just hire people because I'm like, it's just part of the budget of the video. And now I have a budget to work with. When you just have AdSense, the budget is pretty small to work with. And then obviously, like anyone else, I have to pay taxes on the income too. Duh. The only thing is, because I didn't sell those stocks, I don't pay tax on that yet. You pay when you sell. So one day I'll pay taxes on that, but not now. And then another last thing I'll talk about is real estate, because one of my properties does cash flow. And the reality is, you guys, it all goes to maintenance. There's always something. So many of you know me and my sister, we co-own 2 properties, but I rent here in LA because I like the flexibility of it. And the thing is, like, the townhouse now, because we bought it in 2019 and it has a low interest rate, for the first time ever, it cash flows a little bit. I think like $150, maybe $200 a month. And it has always just gone back to maintenance. So it doesn't really cash flow. It doesn't. That's the reality of it. It just has a maintenance fund, which is cool because before we'd have to like go out of pocket for that. So I do get appreciation, of course, of those rental properties, but in the past couple of years, there hasn't been much. It's actually gone down in value. So long term should be good, but Palm Springs house, I could do a whole video on. Again, it's not like I'm making money from it, really. I don't think. I'd have to like look at the numbers again, but I've noticed like rents overall are a little lower, I think, because, we're not in a huge economic boom, I would say. So people aren't spending as much on vacations. And Palm Springs, just with the limited amount of rental contracts, it's hard to make those numbers work. So yeah, overall rental properties, I kind of just put that at 0. I don't say I really make money from them. Like I make a bit more in the equity each year, but I also have to come out of my own pocket for expenses every year too. Like the umbrellas in the backyard are broken and it's $800 for new ones. Tax prep for the LLC costs, all these things, it just ends up kind of being an appreciation and equity play, not a cash flow play. So I don't really include that in the how much I made videos because it's not like any active income. I mean, at least not now. Maybe in 10 years it would be if like over time rents go up, but these days it's not. So yeah, that's that. That's the reality of it. That is just me being transparent about my finances, which I hope you guys appreciate because remember, like, I don't have to do this. I kind of prefer a lot of the time to not. That's why I haven't in past years. But I thought it would be interesting this year to talk about just like the trends I noticed in YouTube brand deals and what companies were paying more for and RPMs and everything. I find it fascinating. And I find it helpful when other people talk about this. So if you're a YouTuber and you're noticing different things with RPMs or brand deals, like comment down below or make a video about it. I would personally love to watch. I think it's super interesting and helpful for those of us that are in this industry. And if you're just watching just like to be nosy and because it's fascinating, like I get that too. But I mean, if you're just watching to be nosy and you don't like what you hear, just remember like you can click off. I don't know, like it's more to help people who are in this industry not get taken advantage of and know kind of what's out there. And honestly, I think there are channels that have the subscribers and viewership that I have that probably get more than I do. I would say I say no to more brand deals and stuff. I don't do as many as I did before because I don't feel like I really like have to unless it's like a really good fit, you know? And even sometimes I feel like there's less offers in a way than there was in, say, 2022 when every company had VC funding and just didn't even know how to spend all their money. Like in 2022, I feel like companies just had to find a way. They were like struggling almost to spend the marketing budgets. And today they're a little more conservative with their approach, which makes sense given the way that the economy is. And I think that how much creators make is very dependent on how the economy is doing and how obviously how people are spending ad dollars. So that is kind of my report on that, my income report, my state of social media, how much you can make on it report. I hope that you guys enjoyed this podcast episode. Let me know if you want more that are kind of like finance related because I can go into it. And don't I'm just going to say, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to do this, but don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you're watching on YouTube or follow if you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. I'm releasing podcasts every single week and I would love for you guys to listen. I have so much fun doing the podcast. Like it's so fun. I feel like to talk to you guys and read the comments and have guests on. It's like kind of my favorite thing these days. So yeah, I would love the support if you leave a review. That helps me a lot in Apple or Spotify, wherever you listen. A 5-star review is like so appreciated. It's the best way to help any podcast grow, really. So that would be very helpful, but really just like following and continuing to listen is like, I'm very thankful for those of you guys who are here and enjoying it. So thank you so much for being here. And I hope that this episode you got something out of, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye. Okay, so we're talking today about making money on YouTube and how much I've made and all of that.